I want to talk about Prey. Not the game, but the name of the game.
What's the name of the game? Does it mean anything to you?
Did the name of Prey actually hurt its sales? Did people not buy this game because the name really just did not work? That is basically what I want to talk about in this video because, spoiler alert, I think it probably did. To really understand this subject, you have to understand that Prey, the current game, the one released in 2017, is not the first game to have that name. In 2006, there was a game called Prey that was released as a first-person shooter. It was a sci-fi game and it revolved around a character that was a Native American who could actually enter the spirit world, and it had some odd mechanics. It had a very puzzle-solving vibe. There were even portals and variable gravity and other things, and whilst it was a sci-fi game, it was radically different to the 2017 version of the game. The 2017 game called Prey that seemingly has absolutely nothing in common with the other game except for the name. You can probably already begin to see some of the problems here. If there was already a game called Prey, why was this new game called Prey? I mean, when Prey, the 2017 game, was announced, a lot of people were thinking it was going to be Prey 2, a follow-up to the old Prey, or a Prey reboot. And there was quite a lot of, well, I wouldn't say negativity, well, probably some negativity. There was some surprise that the two were completely unrelated. So the million-dollar question, and it might actually be a million-dollar question in the end, is why name this new game Prey anyway? Well, it would seem we have an answer from the creative director of Arcane Studios, and I'll put the full quote on screen here, but the relevant parts of this are, I think the association that people have about Prey is that it's about aliens on a space station and it's a first-person game. Okay, fair enough, that is what I remember about Prey. If I move down, he goes on to say, this time we wanted to make it on a space station with aliens and you had to survive with the full ecology, etc. And we started it, the name was available and the connections were easy to be made. We just thought, okay, makes sense, so there we go. And I'm sorry, but that is a terrible line of reasoning. I mean, essentially, they used the name Prey because they owned the name and could use it and thought that the connections it would trigger in people regarding being on a space station would be enough to sell the game. It's on a space station and it's got aliens, so the two are linked somehow. No! No. These games are radically different. These games are they're not the same. And here's the thing. I loved the original Prey. I liked the original Prey. It was a good game. It was fun. I adored the new Prey. The new Prey game is superb. It really is my kind of game. But they're not the same kind of game. They really are not. They felt very different. Apart from being on a space station and being vaguely sci-fi against aliens, there was a real... The entire thing was different. It felt different. The story was different. It's kind of like saying, you know, if it's sci-fi on a space station, it's all the same, isn't it? Everything that's on a space station and sci-fi is just the same. You know, 2001 and Aliens were the same. Actually, Aliens wasn't on a space station. Alien was in a big spaceship the size of a space station. But yeah, there you go. Alien and 2001 are the same thing. Of course they're bloody not. Radically different things, okay? And to me, this is where the problems start. You've got associations with the old Prey. Not only do you have people with expectations that they're now looking forward to a follow-on to Prey, a game they probably enjoyed, and they're going to be disappointed because they're not getting that. Even if it turns out the game is better, there is an initial disappointment, so that's a bad thing. But you're now associating it with a game that I remember as a kind of, as it was a first-person shooter, but I remember it as having a puzzle-solving vibe, and I very much remember the spirit world. That's the association I have, and that does not make me think of the sort of game that Prey is. When you come up with a name for a game, it should trigger the target audience, not a different audience. You want a name that makes people think of the sort of game Prey is. And Prey, well, it has more in common with games like System Shock, Deus Ex, Half-Life. Those are the games I would have been trying to get people to mentally link when I was coming up with a name. And you've got a lot of potential with this game as well, because it's got a lot of, well, buzzwords and buzz concepts that would really appeal to the real target audience. Neuro, for example. I mean, this game is heavily, well, it is about neuromods. It really is about altering the human condition via neuromods. And it's also very much about what it means to be human. What is the human condition? So you've got words like neuro, you've got the word human. Now, forget aliens. Those are the words you want to do. Immediately, anyone who's a sci-fi buff can think of 1,000 titles with neuro, you know, like Neuroscape or something like that. Neuroshock, that's one I saw. You know, I mean, Neuroshock. You've got images of things like Neuromancer, Cyberpunk, and Shock immediately makes you think of System Shock, games like that. These are the sort of links you want. You could have had a subtitle, you know, Neuroscape, Humanity plus plus. You've got the word humanity in there. People are going to be thinking Deus Ex. This is the kind of link you want. You end it with things like plus plus. I was thinking plus plus is a great way to end a title because it's going to immediately appeal to nerds and techie people, but it will cause slight confusion in everyone else. And they'll go, what does the plus plus mean? And that's a point of conversation, because it's not confusion as in, I have no idea what's going on. It's confusion as in, can someone explain that to me? And it gets them invested. Names like that, there's so many names that have not been used, but that could be linking it to a new target audience, the actual target audience for this game. And if the thinking was, well, we thought Prey would appeal to a wider audience, why would you want to do that? You don't want to appeal to an audience that isn't into this kind of game. You know, if people are buying this thinking it's going to be a shooter with some puzzle solving, they're going to go, oh, 1 out of 10, crap game, no portals, you know, couldn't enter spirit world, what the f... You know, you don't want that audience. You want to appeal to the audience that you didn't appeal to, the people who look back on games like System Shock and think, God, I want more of that. And trust me, there's actually a pretty wide audience for that sort of game. Market it right, people will come to it. People will buy that sort of game. You tell me, which audience is bigger? The audience that's attracted to the name Prey, or the one that's attracted to the name Deus Ex? Or the name System Shock? I mean, you tell me which of those audiences is larger. And when it comes down to it, linking it to those games would have been the right thing to do, because those are the sort of games it's most similar to. And if it sounds like I'm frustrated by this, it's because I am. I want to see more games like this. I loved this game. It was my favourite game from 2017. I think Prey was one of those games that really did not get the attention it deserved, and I'm really hoping it doesn't hurt the chances of a second game. I want to play Prey 2. I want to play more games like this. It had a very old school feel to me, even though it was a very modern game with all the bells and whistles. It really did have that old school single player vibe to it. Games like System Shock, games like Deus Ex. This is what I love, games like that. I adore games like that. I want more of this sort of game, and to see this game not get the attention it deserves because of what could have just been a marketing mistake really bugs me. Of course, the problem now is when they make the second game, it's got to be called Prey 2. I mean, they could add a subtitle, I suppose. You know, Prey 2 Neuroshock. And maybe that would appeal to the real target audience, and maybe even some of them would go, oh wait, what was Prey 1 about again? And then they would go back, find out that it was a game they would have liked to have played, and they'll buy it and play through it before the second one. But ultimately, it's going to be the Prey series from now on, and it's not a name that works, right? They're stuck with it. Or are they? You see, I can't help but remember a movie series called Rambo. It's a fairly old series. Many of you may not even have heard of it. Well, you've probably heard of it because, of course, the word Rambo literally is a verb now. It's not just a noun. You can Rambo things. It's a knife, it's an adjective, it's a verb, it's everything. It has become a meme in of itself. But here's the thing, right? If you think of Rambo, the movie, and then think of Rambo 3, the third movie, can you remember Rambo 2, the movie? And the answer is no, because there never was a Rambo 2 movie. And that might be confusing some people, but people who are old enough to remember that series are probably nodding now. You see, Rambo was not the first Rambo movie. It was the second First Blood movie. You see, the original movie was called First Blood, and by the way, hands down the best movie of the three. In fact, it's the only one I really enjoyed. The others were way too well, they had no point other than, you know, I'm a hero and I'm going to blow everything up kind of a thing. They were pure action movies. First Blood actually has a point. There is actually a message behind it. I won't go into it right now, but there's a message behind it. Really good movie. If you've never seen First Blood, you should go and watch that. That is a great movie. But it was called First Blood. And the second movie was called Rambo, First Blood 2. You see, they took First Blood 2 and made it as a subtitle. They actually made it as a subtitle and called the next movie Rambo. Then for some reason the third movie wasn't Rambo 2 First Blood 3, probably the reason being that that's stupid, and they just called it Rambo 3 because they realised Rambo had become the link. People thought of Rambo. Rambo became, as I said, a verb. It became the meme itself, and they wanted Rambo in all of the titles. They wanted Rambo in the titles. And the title of the series changed. If there'd been a fourth movie, it would have been Rambo 4. They successfully transitioned. So what I'm thinking is with the next game, they give it another title. But instead of having Prey 2 and then subtext, they have the new title, I don't know, let's just go with Neuroscape or Neuroshock or something like that. And then the subtitle is Prey 2. And then hopefully everyone will start thinking about the new title, and then for the next game would be whatever that title is, Neuroshock 2. You know, something like that. And the fact that would annoy some people, and it would annoy people like me, because I'm still bugged by First Blood, Rambo 2, First Blood, Rambo, First Blood 2, and Rambo 3. That still annoys my sense of, counting. It annoys my desire to have numbers occur 1, 2, 3. And it will annoy people if that happens with Prey. But it will annoy them in a way that they remember. And hopefully it won't annoy them so much that well, that's it, I'm refusing to buy the game because the game's title's wrong. They'll just buy it and talk about how silly it is. But at least they'll buy it and they'll talk about it. And hopefully, by the time the third Prey game comes out, it won't be a Prey game, it will be a whatever the real title is. I don't know if that is something they need to do. Maybe now there is enough of an association with Prey and what the game is about, but I don't think so. I really don't get the feeling that Prey and what it involved has sort of gotten into the wider gaming consciousness. which normal games do. I mean, here's the thing. It doesn't matter whether you like Call of Duty or not. You picture it, and you probably picture it pretty correctly when you hear the title. You know, when you hear of the Elder Scrolls, even if you can't stand those games and have never played any of them, you've got a picture of it. You know what you're getting vaguely. The number of people who can say the same about Prey is probably a lot lower. When they think of Prey, they'd be like, it was sci-fi, right? And aliens. Yeah, it was about aliens. But of course, anyone who's played the game knows it's not about that. It's about humanity. It's a game. Whereas if you said Deus Ex, people, oh, that's about augmented humanity, isn't it? That's about human beings with like cybernetics and things and getting enhancements. They've got it, even if they've never played it. Even though it's called Deus Ex, they've got a vague idea what it's about. And I don't think that's the case with Prey. And to be honest, I think that has quite a lot to do with the choice of title.